Hi, welcome back to day 81 of Bread, Bible reading every day at Just Direction. We are reading in Samuel, and we're just now reading about Samuel, just now hearing from the Lord. We left it yesterday on an opportunity for chapter 4 to begin with a meanwhile. It doesn't begin meanwhile, but that's the way we left it yesterday because we know something good is going to happen because all Israel has recognized that Samuel is indeed called by the Lord, that he is indeed a prophet of the Lord. So get your pens, your papers, and let's carry on. Chapter 4. At that time, Israel was at war with the Philistines. The Israelite army was camped near Ebenezer, and the Philistines were at Aphek. Do you know what Ebenezer means? The Lord, oh my goodness, I wanted to tell you, the Lord, thus far the Lord is with us. What is it? Mm-hmm. Yes, thus far the Lord is with us. The Israelites' army was camped near Ebenezer, and the Philistines were at Aphek. The Philistines attacked and defeated the army of Israel, killing 4,000 men. After the battle was over, the troops retreated to their camp, and the elders of Israel asked, "Why did the Lord allow us to be defeated by the Philistines?" Then they said, "Let's bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord from Shiloh. If we carry it into battle with us, it will save us from our enemies." So they sent men to Shiloh to bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord of heaven's armies, who is enthroned between the cherubim. Hophni and Phinehas, the sons of Eli, were also there with the ark of the covenant. When all the Israelites saw the ark of the covenant of the Lord coming into the camp, their shout of joy was so loud it made the ground shake. That just excites me so much, thinking about that. I mean, thinking how exciting it would be to see the Ark of the Covenant, knowing that it contains the tablets, the stone tablets that were written by the finger of God. Oh my goodness, that just excites me so much thinking about that. How I would love to see that. You know you would too. And so the ground shook. What's going on? The Philistines asked. What's all the shouting about in the Hebrew camp? When they were told it was because the ark of the Lord had arrived, they panicked. "The gods have come into their camp," they cried. This is a disaster. We have never had to face anything like this before. Help! Who can save us from these mighty gods of Israel? They are the same gods who destroyed the Egyptians with plagues when Israel was in the wilderness. Fight as never before, Philistines. If you don't, we will become the Hebrew slaves, just as they have been ours. Stand up like men and fight. Now, I have written in the flyleaf of my Bible here, history/reputation. Right there, the reputation, when the Ark of the Covenant is coming, look at what they said. They became afraid of their gods. They knew what had happened. That's what they said. These are the same gods who destroyed the Egyptians with plagues when Israel was in the wilderness. Fight as never before, Philistines. If you don't, we will become the Hebrews slaves, just as they have been ours. Stand up, amen. Oh, I just love this. I just love this. The reputation is known. The history is known and is carried through. So the Philistines fought desperately, and Israel was defeated again. The slaughter was great. 30,000 Israelite soldiers died that day. The survivors turned and fled to their tents. The ark of God was captured, and Hophni and Phinehas, the two sons of Eli, were killed, as promised, on the same day. Now listen up. A man from the tribe of Benjamin ran from the battlefield and arrived at Shiloh later that same day. He had torn his clothes and put dust on his head to show his grief. Eli was waiting beside the road to hear the news of the battle, for his heart trembled for the safety of the ark of God. When the messenger arrived and told what had happened, an outcry resounded throughout the town. "What is all the noise about?" Eli asked. The messenger rushed over to Eli, who was 98 years old and blind. He said to Eli, "I have just come from the battlefield. I was there this very day." "What happened, my son?" Eli demanded. "Israel has been defeated by the Philistines," the messenger replied. "The people have been slaughtered, and your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were also killed, and the ark of God has been captured." When the messenger mentioned what had happened to the ark of God, Eli fell backward from his seat beside the gate. He broke his neck and died, for he was old and overweight. He had been Israel's judge for 40 years. Now let's go back up to the beginning of that. When the messenger mentioned what had happened to the ark of God, It wasn't when he said, your 2 sons died. Hophni and Phinehas have both been killed. Eli didn't have to fear those words because he already knew. God had already told him that was going to happen. But the ark of God, something so sacred, something such a treasure that was taken from the Israelites. Verse 19, Eli's daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant and near her time of delivery. When she heard that the ark of God had been captured and that her father-in-law and husband were dead, she went into labor and gave birth. She died in childbirth, but before she passed away, the midwives tried to encourage her. Don't be afraid, they said. You have a baby boy. But she did not answer or pay attention to them. She named the child Ichabod, which means, where is the glory? For she said, Israel's glory is gone. She named him this because the ark of God had been captured and because her father-in-law and husband were dead. Then she said, the glory has departed from Israel, for the ark of God has been captured. They know how precious the ark of God is. Chapter 5. After the Philistines captured the ark of God, they took it from the battleground at Ebenezer to the town of Ashdod. They carried the ark of God into the temple of Dagon and placed it beside an idol of Dagon. But when the citizens of Ashdod went to see it the next morning, Dagon had fallen with his face to the ground in front of the ark of the Lord. So this makes me giggle. So they took Dagon and put him in his place again. But the next morning, the same thing happened. Dagon had fallen face down before the ark of the Lord again. What's so interesting is Dagon is just a stone. He's just a stone. And these people are worshiping a stone. And the ark of God is so powerful. The Spirit is there. The anointing is there. That Dagon, this thing that they worship, that they hold dear and true, that they think is going to answer them, that they think is going to give them provision, that they worship, that they sacrifice to. It's just nothing but a rock that just keeps falling down now, because it is now in the presence of the Lord. Dagon had fallen face down before the ark of the Lord again. This time, his head and hands had broken off and were lying in the doorway. Only the trunk of his body was left intact. That is why to this day, neither the priest of Dagon nor anyone who enters the temple of Dagon in Ashdod will step on its threshold. Then the Lord's heavy hand struck the people of Ashdod and the nearby villages with a plague of tumors. When the people realized what was happening, they cried out, we can't keep the ark of God of Israel here any longer. He is against us. We will all be destroyed again with Dagon, our God. So they called together the rulers of the Philistine towns and asked, what should we do with the ark of God of Israel? It's interesting because over here in verse 8, they said, who can save us from these mighty gods of Israel? Help, who can save us from these mighty gods of Israel? They're the same gods who destroyed the Egyptians with the plagues. And here they're having the plagues. And they dare, and now they don't know what to do. What should we do with this ark of God? They recognize that, what God did to the Philistines, what God did to the Egyptians, God's going to do to the Philistines here. The rulers discussed it and replied, move it to the town of Gath. So they moved the ark of God of Israel to Gath. But when the ark arrived at Gath, the Lord's heavy hand fell on its men, young and old. He struck them with a plague of tumors, and there was a great panic. So they sent the ark of God to the town of Ekron. But when the people of Ekron saw it coming, they cried out, they're bringing us the ark of the God of Israel here to kill us too. The people summoned the Philistine rulers again and begged them, please send the ark of God of Israel back to its own country, or it will kill us all. For the deadly plague from God had already begun, and great fear was sweeping across the town. Those who didn't die were afflicted with tumors, and the cry from the town rose to heaven. It's quite interesting that right now we're reading about plagues, whenever this is what we're being faced as a world, with this horrible plague. We need to call out to God. We need to be a people that calls out to God. Chapter 6. The ark of the Lord remained in Philistine territory 7 months in all. Then the Philistines, they had the nerve to leave it there that long. Can you imagine? Then the Philistines called in their priests and diviners and asked them, what should we do about the ark of the Lord? Tell us how to return it to its own country. Send the ark of God of Israel back with a gift, they were told. Send a gift offering so the plague will stop. Then If you are healed, you will know that it was his hand that caused the plague. What sort of guilt offering should we send? They asked. And they were told, since the plague has struck both you and your 5 rulers, make 5 gold tumors and 5 gold rats, just like those that have ravaged your land. Now it's interesting to me that they're going to just continue to make idols. But this is what they did then. So now they're making 5 gold tumors. You know that was ugly. Let's just face it, those were ugly. I mean, who makes tumors, really? Okay, so 5 gold tumors. Even gold don't make a tumor pretty. And 5 gold rats. Just like those that ravage your land. So the rats aren't pretty either. Make these things to show honor to the God of Israel. And that's interesting too, that these are to show honor. Make these things to show honor to the God of Israel. Perhaps then he will stop afflicting you, your gods, and your land. See, they're so ignorant as to what really needs to be done. And all they know is how to worship something that is not living. How to worship a God that they made. And how to worship these things and put it before it. So they're following their ritual to try to bring healing into their land. Don't be stubborn and rebellious as Pharaoh and the Egyptians were. By the time God was finished with them, they were eager to let Israel go. Now build a new cart and find 2 cows that have just given birth to calves. Make sure the cows have never been yoked to a cart. Hitch the cows to the cart, but shut their calves away from them in a pen. Put the ark of the Lord on the cart, and beside it place a chest containing the gold rats and gold tumors you are sending as a guilt offering. Then let the cows go wherever they want. I love this so much, and I've heard so many messages on this, and it's so good. It's just so good. If they cross the border of our land and go to Beth Shemesh, we will know it was the Lord who brought this great disaster upon us. If they don't, we will know it was not his hand that caused the plague. It came simply by chance. So these instructions were carried out. 2 cows were hitched to the cart, and their newborn calves were shut up in a pen. Then the ark of the Lord and the chest containing the gold rats and gold tumors were placed on the cart. And sure enough, without veering off in other directions, the cows went straight along the road toward Beth Shemesh, lowing as they went. Now you've heard a cattle low. You know, we've all heard that. And it sounds like a mooing and lowing. The Philistine rulers followed them as far as the border of Beth Shemesh. The people of Beth Shemesh were harvesting wheat in the valley. When they saw the ark, they were overjoyed. God knew exactly where to lead that ark. The cart came into the field of a man named Joshua and stopped beside a large rock. So the people broke up the wood of the cart for a fire and killed the cows and sacrificed them to the Lord as a burnt offering. Several men of the tribe of Levi lifted the ark of the Lord and the chest containing the gold rats and gold tumors from the cart and placed them on the large rock. Many sacrifices and burnt offerings were offered to the Lord that day by the people of Beth Shemesh. The 5 Philistine rulers watched all this and then returned to Ekron that same day. The 5 gold tumors sent by the Philistines as a guilt offering to the Lord were gifts from the rulers of Ashdod, Gaza, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron. The 5 gold rats represented the 5 Philistine towns and their surrounding villages, which were controlled by the 5 rulers. The large rock at Beth Shemesh, where they set the ark of the Lord, still stands in the field of Joshua as a witness to what happened there. But the Lord killed 70 men from Beth Shemesh because they looked into the ark of the Lord. And when you know, you be tempted. But they knew better. That's the thing, you guys. There's things that even when we're tempted by, we know better than to do it. Don't give in to the temptation. Don't give in. There's always going to be a consequence. They knew better. They knew they weren't to touch that. They knew they weren't to look into it. And the people mourned greatly because of what the Lord had done. Who is able to stand in the presence of the Lord, this holy God? They cried out, where can we send the ark from here? So they sent messengers to the people of Kiriath Jearim and told them, the Philistines have returned the ark of the Lord. Come here and get it. Wow. Wow. Yes, I did just read 3 chapters. I'm like, I want to go on. I'm anxious to just continue on. So, all right, join me tomorrow for day 82. And we will continue and find out more of what's going to happen when the ark of the Lord gets there. Samuel being the priest, a high priest. Samuel, what he's going to do. The leadership that's going to be happening in Israel. And I just want to encourage you again today that may the peace that passes all understanding go with you. That be with you. May the peace of God that passes all understanding. Okay? There's a prayer, a scripture, and I often like to say it as a prayer, and it is, help me, babe. We used to give this as a closing at our church in DC. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and make his face to shine upon you. And that's my prayer for you today, and in these days and during this time, and be a blessing. And may that, when the Lord blesses you and keeps you and makes his face to shine upon you, that's going to be a glow that's going to be contagious to others. So allow that to be. So be a blessing. Be such a huge blessing at this time. And God, I promise you, will be a blessing back to you. Okay, I'll see you again tomorrow for day 82. Bye-bye.